Wait, is anyone recording master? Are you recording?
I'm recording the master.
Okay. Master.
I want you to know that I actually paused to wait for you to do that because I knew that it was going to happen. Welcome to the Game Brew Podcast, episode 22 on January 15th, 2018. I am your host, Ian Richard, and I'm here this week with Chris Reitz.
Hi.
Dan Rotz.
Hi.
Alex Reiter.
Hello.
And Will Shell.
Hey.
In our first segment, we'll talk about how sound in games affects the way we play. And in the second half of the show, we'll go there and back again to get to the bottom and top of traversal in gaming. But first, it's time for a beer.
Did you mess up?
Chris, what we drankin'?
We drank in Goose Island IPA, dog.
Tell us a little bit about Goose Island.
Well, Goose Island started in 1988 in Chicago town.
Chicago.
They moved to a bigger brewery in 95, and then they got bought out by Anheuser-Busch a couple years ago.
Oh boy.
Wait, I've never heard of them. Who's
They make this little microbrew called Bud Light.
Bud Light.
Yeah, or actually America.
Never heard of it.
Oh, I think we had a sip of that a couple episodes ago.
Back in July, we were drinking a little bit of Bud.
Oh boy.
So that must be still like a kind of craft thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty limited runs. They don't do a whole lot of advertising or.
That is a crisp beer.
Yeah. So the thing about the Anheuser-Busch, the microbreweries that Anheuser-Busch bought out is that for the most part, at least some of them, they kind of left alone.
Yep.
What that's done is it's really helped to preserve the quality and the uniqueness of the brews. And Goose Island is kind of known for some of its unique brews.
It's definitely really. I like the citrusy aroma. Like whenever I'm smelling it, it smells really nice.
You smell really nice.
This is a really light IPA. This is an incredibly light IPA in alcohol and also in bitterness. It's not really bitter at all. This is great. I really like this.
It's almost sessiony. Like it's only 6%. Well, 5.9.
Right.
Not too
Rounding
bitter.
up,
Only
of course.
55 IBUs. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
The head is really pretty. I got a little bit even in my nice gentle pour, which is great.
You've got soft hands, so gentle pour.
Supple. I like to use the word supple for describing my hands.
Do you lotion before you pour?
I lotion before I do everything. Go to bed, lotion first.
That's tough. Opening doors must be hard for you.
It takes me
Damn it! It keeps slipping off.
Goddamn brass doorknobs.
Oh, Chris, what were you gonna say?
I'm not the biggest fan of it.
Really?
I think it's pretty.
Yeah.
Mediocre. It's just like I'll drink it. It's a beer, so I'll drink it. But it's not like. I don't think I would go and be like, oh man, I'm really craving a Goose Island IPA.
You know what's funny is I have to agree with you. I wouldn't either, but at the same time, this is exactly what I want right now. You know how sometimes you want a beer that's going to hit you with a bunch of flavor and it's going to be really, it's going to stand out and make an impression. This beer doesn't, but I'm it's just good. It's fresh. It's crisp.
Yeah, it's a nice afternoon drinking beer.
Yeah, if you put this beer in a lineup of 4 or 5 other middle of the road IPAs, I don't know if I would be able to tell that this is Goose Island.
Dude, you could totally tell. It would be the one with the least amount of hops.
Is it the one where after you take a sip,
the
you just
game
go,
we're gonna play soon.
You might be able to tell because you're like, I thought these were all IPAs. And
Yeah, right.
But it's still. But I really like it. I kind of like a lighter IPA every once in a while. So that's a nice. It's a good drinking beer, especially after I drank those 4 Golden Monkeys last time. Do you remember when I did that, you guys?
We do remember. Do you remember?
A little bit. After I listened to the recording, I remembered more. But
yeah, you know what's funny is that there's a little bit of false advertising on this bottle. It says bright citrus aromas. I would say true. And then right after that, it says bold hop finish. And I would say not.
I don't know about that.
I feel more of the hot, like there's like almost no finish at all. Like it's a really clean finish.
It's very
for
clean.
beer, and I feel more of the hops like on that initial like tongue attack.
Yep.
Like
same.
right on that front end, and then it just disappears.
Yeah. Which for someone who doesn't, you know what this is? This is the IPA for people who don't like IPAs.
Well, and they use a lot of different hops in this too.
Do they?
Yeah, 4 different types.
It looks like that all their hops were grown for Goose Island at Elk Mountain Farm in Bonners Ferry, Idaho.
Oh, that's nice. Keeping it American.
Way to go, Idaho.
Way to go. Idaho.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to what we've been playing this week. We're going to swing back and follow up on the White Elephant games that we traded around for Christmas. If you remember, we had a nice little session where we stole things from each other and played games that we may not necessarily have chosen. And I'm particularly interested to hear what Dan's take on Jeto Miro was.
My cat's here. Look, she's so cute.
God damn it, Samson.
I'm sorry. No, that's Florence.
Oh.
Florence is the adorable one.
Where's her machine?
It's right over there.
Oh, okay.
I
Florence
get
and the
it.
machine. Yeah.
Get it.
Also, look, I don't know if I showed you guys this. Sorry, off topic.
Yep.
Those are
Those are awesome. Different
Oh,
controllers.
dude.
Oh, dude, that's cool.
video game controllers. Got them for Christmas.
That's
they are
awesome.
by Emily Mercedes. My sister and brother-in-law my sister and brother-in-law got them for us for Christmas. Really cool.
So cool. Those are really cool.
I got Jeto Miro. Yeah.
Hero of the universe.
Hero of the universe. It's a really cute game. It's definitely really cute. It's you basically play a robot who like arrives and thinks he's there to save humanity because he like he's in space, keeps going on these little planets. He's like, oh, there's all these little people. I wonder what's going on with all these little people. I sure hope they're okay. And he's like trying to be helpful, but instead he's just kind of stomping around and destroying things.
My life.
It's the art style is very cute. You can change like a bunch of filters on it so that you can take pictures of stuff and like or take screenshots and then save those and like post them on stuff or send them to your friends. And your robot starts out as like a robot with 2 little claw hand things and like feet and a head, and you can find new parts of your robot body to change.
So there's a progression system kind of built in.
No, not really. It's all superficial. So
It doesn't
it's
really
just,
change the gameplay.
No, it doesn't. I mean, the gameplay, is very repetitive. You go to a planet, find some parts, kill, you murder another robot, try not to murder humans, and then you leave and then go to another planet and do the same thing. All trying to figure out like what your past is as a robot, like why, like what's going on, because you don't really remember anything aside from like, oh, there's all these little people. But it's not a long game. I still haven't finished it, but I only played it for like an hour and a half, something like that. I've been told it's like 3 hours long for it. So it's but it's definitely really cool, like interesting art style. Play it with a controller, don't play it with keys because it's hard to play with keys. But would you say that you would recommend it to somebody else for its price? How much is it right now?
That's what I'm looking up.
This is where we put the looking up music.
It is $12.99.
For $12.99, it's okay.
Whoa!
I mean, it's an okay. I just wish that was a little bit more to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very simple. If it's less than $12.99, I would say go for it. I wouldn't
so if
say
it goes on sale.
Yeah, I wouldn't say go for like the full price of it. It's really cute. I love like little tiny games like this most of the time. It's just I don't know. It didn't really get me going with like the story was interesting, but the gameplay didn't really do a whole lot to back it up, in my opinion.
All right, cool. That's Jeto Miro, Hero of the Universe. It's on sale on Steam for $12.99. Alex, you were playing a AAA climb 'em up.
I think all the kids really wanted this Christmas.
all of them. Yep. Well, I'm sad to report that I am still bread. So my game that I got in the White Elephant was I am bread, and your goal in life is to become toast. So using combination of left trigger, left button, right trigger, right button, you hold those down, and if you hold two of them down, those are your pivot points, and you pivot the bread around, flip it around, climb up walls or cabinets, and I do not like this game.
No. You don't? No.
What do you not like about it? The controls, or
So it's a physics-based game.
Yeah.
So kind of like if you have played, what is it? Goat Simulator.
Yeah. Or like Clop or
Yeah.
Getting Over It.
Yep. So it's physics-based, but the annoying part of the game is not the physics. It's that the controls don't respond how you want them to. It's
Right.
like the game just does not function smoothly. It's like if you hold down the right trigger, left trigger, and you're pivoting your bread over, like all of a sudden you lose connectivity and your bread just you lose your pivot point and you fall, and it's super clunky to actually
Is it clunky?
do anything.
Did you ever play Surgeon Simulator?
No.
Okay.
But you can.
But yeah, right. Yeah. For the low price of. So Surgeon Simulator is similar in that it uses a set of controls that are purposefully vague and difficult. But I actually ended up kind of falling in love with Surgeon Simulator because whenever you failed, it kind of didn't feel bad because you could just be like, well, the controls are stupid and I'm in the back of an ambulance with a hammer trying to like remove someone's heart. So like,
that's funny. That's how I feel about Dark Souls. Every time I die, it's like, well, the fucking controls are stupid and nobody explained what was going on.
I just
We're not allowed to talk about
I just want to say that
the controls are simple. The controls are easy. The controls they have them on the bread. They say this corner is the left trigger. This corner is the right trigger.
So it's just wonky.
And it will lock these corners. But you hold them, it doesn't do that every single time. It's just it's annoying. It doesn't, the simplicity of the game makes it, I think, super difficult.
got it.
Okay.
And there's a certain problem solving aspect to it, but because the controls were so clunky, I couldn't even get to that point.
Got it.
It's like it was a struggle. It's a 5-minute struggle to get from the loaf of bread to the edge of the table, and you have to go across the entire kitchen to get in this damn toaster.
That sounds like Apple developed this game because it's if it's so simple that it's convoluted to get anything done, it must be an Apple developed.
That's kind of great. Okay, that is I Am Bread. It is for sale on the Steam store for $12.99. Funny enough, there's also a Surgeon Simulator I Am Bread package for $19.49 if you just want to be incredibly frustrated for no apparent reason. Chris, what did you get at the White Elephant Christmas?
I got Prey. Prey 2017.
Pray tell us, how was it?
Yeah, not the one from 2004?
6, I think.
6? 2006?
So I really liked it. I've put 12 hours into it so far, and I think it's really great. It lets you it's one of those games where you get to do the things the way you want to do them. So kind of like Deus Ex, or in a way kind of like Bioshock. So it's another one of those games that are considered System Shock 2's spiritual successor.
Yeah, it's what do they call these? They call them system-based games. Yeah.
It does a really good job. It does have some jump scares, which are kind of fun. But you can use the environment the way you want to. There's like a lot of different weapons, and you never have too much ammo for one thing, so you're always kind of trying to you're forced to be creative to do things differently all the time. And
see, I was totally into trying this game until you said there are jump scares, and now I'm like, oh no, I'm too scared. I can't do it.
Oh, come on. It's not jump scares like as much as Dead Space, but they're definitely there.
Should play some Resident Evil 7, Ian.
No, Ian, you should play it. You will, if you liked Bioshock, you will like this for sure.
Okay, cool. So you had a good time with it. You liked it.
Oh yeah, I loved it. And I'm gonna keep playing it.
So this is
I definitely recommend it.
Yeah, this is an Arcane Studios game published by Bethesda. Do you think it measures up to the other Arcane Studios stuff? Like Dishonored, I believe it's an Arcane Studios game.
I've actually played more of this than Dishonored. I didn't fall in love with Dishonored for whatever reason. But,
Really?
Okay.
yeah. Which I should. I haven't. But this game I would highly recommend.
Cool. Highly recommended. That's Prey. It is $39.99 on the Steam store.
Catch it though. It often goes on sale for less than 20, so keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, I've seen it on like GOG and stuff for like 15 or something like that. Will.
Wasn't there.
I didn't get anything because I couldn't be there.
That's right.
So
We didn't get
I got
anything
coal.
for Christmas.
I got coal for
You
Christmas.
got coal.
Well, did you at least have like a nice little fire with that?
I did.
coal?
No, since I couldn't
good.
be there with you guys to participate in the White Elephant Gaming, I have been all about my Switch lately. That thing has come with me.
Nice.
I
finally
just
started playing
continue
a
to love
Zelda
the
game?
Switch. No, I have not, but I continue to love the Switch and bringing my primary gaming apparatus with me and being able to do that wherever I am, sitting on a chair at the work office,
Yeah.
home,
Sitting on a chair.
sitting
So
on
we now have
That's just what came to mind.
That's what we're calling it.
we now have
Sitting on the
It's chair.
Episode title.
so we now have 3 Switches in the Game Brew family. Dan has a Switch. Dan, you got your Switch last week?
I got it on Monday of last week.
Will's had his for about 3 weeks, and I've had mine for a while. So Chris and Alex, now we're just waiting on you two.
I'm good.
That's fine. Well, if you need us, we'll be over in the chairs.
No, like I want to have an excuse to buy one, but I don't have it yet.
That's okay.
There's not a game that I need to play it on.
Dude, Mario Tennis is coming out
Mario
soon.
Tennis is coming
Mario
out.
Tennis
Console-
is not
I
good.
hope they
console
release
seller.
a new Mario Strikers, dude. That game is
It's not gonna do it
Is that
for
like
me.
Mario Soccer?
yeah.
Interesting.
Only soccer game I've ever liked, Mario Strikers.
Dude, I'm actually like I was kind of ragging on Mario Tennis, but I'm actually really excited for it.
I love Mario sports games.
And the reason because there's not really a whole lot on the Switch right now that's using the motion controls as the primary controller for a game, and I think they need to show that this console is as accessible as the Wii was. And I'm hoping that something like Mario Tennis kind of opens up that wider audience.
I'm really excited for all the Best Buy black tie protection accidental damage turn-ins to start dropping once Dark Souls releases for the Switch.
Because someone just
Because people are going to be
spikes their Switch on the floor.
chucking those things across the room into the wall.
Yeah. Anyway, bringing it back to White Elephant Gaming, I received a game about a white wolf, actually, Okami HD. And I put maybe like 2 or 3 hours into Okami HD. And that's it. And I liked it, but I gotta say, like having to go to save points and excruciatingly long, like the opening section before you get to do anything is so long that it kind of turned me off a little bit. I know it's like a critically acclaimed game, but it just, I don't know, I kind of bounced off of it a little bit.
You're the worst.
It had some really cool ideas. I love the.
Keep in mind this was made like over 10 years, like I think 10 years ago.
Yeah, like the painting mechanic is really cool, and I really like that the protagonist isn't a human. I think there are not enough games where we get put into the skin of something else, and I appreciate that this game is one of those. I don't know. I just bounced off it. I might go back at some point. I think I need to.
I think you should give it more time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I need to give it more.
If an hour of your game is taken up by exposition,
intro, yeah, it's like, oh god,
you've only played it for 2 hours. So.
yeah.
And come back.
So let's go ahead and move on to segment 1. We're calling this segment The Sound Effect, how sounds in games change the way we play and the way we feel about games. This topic came about because I was thinking about Stardew Valley, which I've been playing on the Switch lately, and it occurred to me that when it rains in the spring in Stardew Valley, unlike the sunny summer or spring days, there's no music. There's this super happy tune that plays in the spring when it's not raining. But when it rains, the music turns off and all you hear is just this really calming, really smooth shh of the rain. And it makes you play in a different way and it makes you feel a different day. So I wanted to explore other titles and other games that have sound effects that change the way you play and the way you feel. So Chris,
if I recall correctly, there's also the cries of some creature and when it rains as well.
Yeah. I don't know what that is yet, but it's there.
You'll find out later, but I always thought that was a little creepy.
It is a little creepy. And there's a lot, like there's so much going on in that game. I'm not ready to talk about Stardew Valley yet because I just got into summer, so like we're not ready to go there yet. But I did
read
think
the blog, everybody.
I did think that even that small amount, and Stardew Valley doesn't have super complicated sound effects. I mean, it's like 8-bit sounds, and even those ones are used really wisely in a way that makes me change the way I play. So guys, you want to jump in here and talk about maybe some other games that have neat sound effects?
No.
We don't.
All
End
right.
of topic.
Apparently I am the only one who thought about this.
Let's talk to the guy that did sound effects.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Sounds like he wants to say something.
This is something that I could very easily talk about for the next 48 hours.
Oh, awesome. Okay,
Well,
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
leave. See you guys. Bye.
So, one of the games that I came across, I was introduced to it at GDC last year, was Abzu.
Abzu.
I thought I introduced you to that.
No.
No.
I was introduced by a panel that I was at GDC.
Interesting.
But I got to hear the composer and the sound designer for the game talk about kind of how music is used, because it's a little more music driven than sound effects driven.
Sure.
But the music is kind of like the ambience and the atmosphere for the game, especially in the VR version of the game. They do a lot of really cool things, like when you have your headset on and you're playing Abzu, if you look down, it puts a low pass filter on everything, so it rolls off all of the high end
Interesting.
of the audio, so it's just this like low kind of rumbly thing. And then when you look up to the surface of the water and you see the sun shining through the top of the water, it's a high pass filter, and so all the low end is rolled off and it's all this like shimmery strings and stuff like that. And it's incredible because it really does, it changes the feel of the game completely. Then
Well, it gives perspective. It like makes you feel perspective and
exactly, yeah. And you can also, there's a lot going on because you're in the ocean. There are fish swimming by you. There's things happening. You can actually, in the VR version of the game, focus on a fish and like lock on to that fish, and all of the other sound in the game actually gets turned down.
Except
and
for the
all
fish
you hear
sound?
is that fish that swims past.
Ooh.
That is so what you're saying is that they are consciously thinking about sound design in a way that sort of amplifies human perception.
Yes.
That's really interesting.
Well, and you can even go to games like Call of Duty. It's like the immersiveness that they've got to with first person shooters. You can tell where someone is in a game now without seeing them, based on where you hear a bullet come from, or the ricochet, or footsteps around a corner, or
well, that's like a big deal. Like in Rainbow Six Siege, which we've been playing a lot recently too.
Yeah.
Like you can hear when terrorists are walking near you. On the other side of the door, even, or like if you can hear them on the floor above you, or like it just really helps with kind of trying to sneak up on them or whatever.
Or position yourself to be in a better defensive spot.
Yeah,
I think spatial awareness is the thing that every single person on the planet probably picks up on when they're playing games, especially with the prevalence of first person shooters and things like Call of Duty. I think we all naturally do that to an extent.
for sure.
I really when I sat down and thought about this, I really focus on or pick up on emotional context and relief and cues, such as, do you remember the first Half-Life game when you'd play and you'd be like low on health, and you'd find like a health station or a health pack? That sound of refilling your health in Half-Life was like this breath of fresh air and relief, because it's like, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Am I going to have to go back to the last save point or checkpoint or whatever? And then do you guys remember the sound? It's like,
yeah, it's like a
yeah, that. Or even when we're playing Overwatch, like the team's going down and you just hear Hedenstauden or whatever it is that Mercy says. It's like, oh my God, I'm relieved right now. I feel so much better.
Or when you hear it's high noon and you
just immediately get terrified.
That induces fear. Some certain sounds will induce fear for me, or relief or excitement, like the Metal Gear Solid. Everybody, whoop.
like the extra.
Yeah, the you've been spotted sound. It's like instant, oh shit. Like you're on high alert.
I didn't know if you guys knew this, but even in Overwatch, when you're on offense, when your team is getting attacked by someone's ult attack, you hear a different vocal of different VO line than that team hears.
And I haven't noticed that.
If you have McCree on your team and he does a high noon ult attack, the other team hears it's high noon, but your team hears a different line that is less
menacing.
Less menacing. Yeah, exactly.
That's really awesome.
It's not supposed to be as distracting to you, but it's a heads up to that other team that, hey, you're about to get your shit kicked in.
That's
or
awesome.
like the justice reigns from above, or
justice reigns from above.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good voice line stuff that's happening in Overwatch, and I think there's a point to be made in the last maybe 5 to 6 years how much more important and prevalent sound has become in first-person shooters specifically. If you think about games like Rainbow Six Siege, Overwatch, or even PUBG, like those are 3 first-person shooters that are almost completely different from one another, but they all rely heavily on sound as a means of communication, and I think that's really important.
Yeah,
and voice acting is I mean, people are spending the time to get better voice actors now. I'm sorry, Dan. I'm going to back away from my microphone now.
No, it's fine. No, I love whenever
you have lots of good things to say, Alex.
No, you do, and that's why I love you. Especially because you know so much about the topic. That's why the thing about PUBG is because it does, like, it fits in that category where there's no voice actors like Overwatch to let you know, but it's all like you have to listen to the gunshots and the things going on, like, oh, is that a car? And that's like the ambient noise in PUBG is one of the things that like freaks me out. I know whenever Ian and I are playing all the time, it's always like it's like, oh, I think I hear a car. I'm like, no, that's just the wind. Or it's like, oh, I think I hear a car. It's like, no, that's a plane. And I'm like, oh, I think I hear a car. I'm like, there's nothing happening right now.
I just love cars and PUBG.
Or like trying to be like, or trying to, you hear like some pops from far away. You're like, oh, I think it's coming from the east. No, it's coming from the northeast. That kind of stuff is very interesting to me, especially with like fancy directional headphones and stuff like that.
Yeah. The other thing that I noticed about PUBG and Rainbow Six Siege in particular is the difference between the ambient sound and the like bullet sounds or like the movement sounds. So the ambient sound is way down. It's very soft. And so when everything is really quiet, you're sort of listening to it and you get adjusted to like this super soft, like shh in the background. And when the bullet, like when someone shoots or when someone drives by, it's a huge effect because there's so much dynamic range in between the two. So it scares the shit out of you. And it does that in Siege as well, and also a little bit in Fortnite Battle Royale.
Yeah, and that kind of reminds me too. There's certain scary like horror or like scary games like the one that comes to mind is Dead Space, and usually there's some creepy ambient sounds going on, and then worst part is when they all stop and it's completely
when
silent.
there's no
Dead Space.
You know the hallway that I'm talking about?
The one where like the
Dead
giant
Space?
like death
Yes.
snake grabs you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It turns, I think, if I remember correctly, it's been a couple years since I played Dead Space, but I think that it turns completely silent right before that.
Well, Dead Space as a whole is there's a ton of ambient sounds going on, but as a whole, it's a sort of a silent game. Like there's no music, and we tend to associate music with action or what's going on to set the mood in games, and that all that the ambient sounds in that game are like. It makes it feel like you're in a living ship, like it's the groans and the breathing of the ship, or the ship will sigh and something will like pop out. It really makes for an engaging and living atmosphere, and that's one of the games that I think uses sound in an incredibly effective way, both sound and the absence of.
I love that. That's Resident Evil 7. No, Resident Evil 7 was the same way, where there wasn't really much like music. It was just kind of like things going on around you that made those noises happen.
It's funny how much we think about sound in first-person shooters and in horror games, but I also think it's important to note that in games, especially arcade games, thinking about sound, everything is super poppy and like it sort of mirrors the gameplay itself. So there's a lot, often if you think about like Geometry Wars, there's a lot of splashiness and neon going on the screen, and the sound is the same. You're sort of overwhelmed to the point of you just kind of accept it, and it turns into kind of a trance thing going on. And that's because those games are so based around momentum and shooting for a high score that they want you to sort of be like engrossed in any given moment of it. There's no time for relaxation, and the sound reflects that.
I also think that there's a balance of sound in games. I say that because if you really pay attention to, if you listen to the audio in Dark Souls, there's actually very minimal music, except for when you fight a boss.
Or when you get to a shrine.
Yeah, and then all of the in-game sound design is actually fairly simple. And it's because there's so many other sensory things going on in that game that too much information can also detract from the gaming experience, I think. And I think that they did a really good job of balancing sound to gameplay and action in Dark Souls. That's also kind of a mechanic of oh my gosh, what am I trying to say?
Anti-disestablishmentarianism. It's okay. It's a hard word.
It's not progressive audio. It's interactive audio that changes depending on the scene or the mood or action that's going on in the game. And like Doom does that.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
I was going to say that.
Yeah, you can talk about that, Chris.
Well, I just really love that. I think it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Alex. It's basically in Doom, you have like a kind of soundtrack going on, and then when you get to certain checkpoints, like if you go into a room that's going to be a big fight, it amps up the music to make it so like you start getting amped up by the music while the action is also amping up, and makes it for a really great gaming experience, because like you're just, I mean, it's just like sensory overload, and then they kind of bring it back a little bit.
You know what I love most about Doom is not like I love the music, but whatever they've done to the vocals and however they've mixed that, when you've got a set of headphones on and you're like surround or stereo headsets, those vocals are just the sweetest mix of bassy and big and raspy and beefy. Just like, they're just incredible. I love listening. I could listen to the voice constantly in that game.
You know that I think there was a study in like 2007. It was the original Doom, but they were like, they had people play the game without sound on and with sound on. And generally, whatever the sound was, whenever people were listening to the music, they did much better at the game than they did without it, because that like audio stuff, like, I don't know, it kicks something on in their brain.
It affects. It's part of the experience.
I mean, just going off of that, something as simple as a slot machine, like at a casino, generally music that is played on slot machines is a loop that it never resolves. When we say it resolves, meaning if it's in the key of B flat, like it'll start on B flat and it's going to end on a B flat.
It sounds
and
like
it's
a
going to
completed
sound like
thought.
it sounds like a completed thought. But if you just take the loop from a casino game and play it start to back without looping it, it doesn't have that resolution. And the whole purpose of that is it gets people sucked in so that they sit there and they listen to it because they want to hear it resolve.
They're never sasatisfied.
They're never
That's
completely
incredible.
satisfied.
Yeah, it's like listening to a scale that goes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti.
Fuck.
That's not the last one.
That's not what that syllable is.
That goes back to the pentatonic major scale being used in all of the 8-bit early music because they couldn't build these awesome orchestral scores like they can in video games now. They only had limited space and limited processing power in order to convey their musical ideas.
That's awesome.
And so a simple pentatonic major scale is what was used to convey completion.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. You know that the when you pick up coins in Super Mario, since forever, the interval between those two is yeah. So what it is it's the dominant to the tonic, which means you're going from a feeling of preparation for finishing to finishing. So it's a very satisfying sound effect, and we all hear it as just like bling 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 bling, but it feels good, and it feels good
Yeah,
for a
you
reason.
want more.
Yeah.
I want more gold coins. Somebody give me some gold coins.
Sorry to go completely music nerd on all
No,
you guys.
it was interesting.
No, it's okay.
You don't ever go full music nerd.
All right, let's go
Sorry.
ahead and wrap this section up. I think that was really interesting to talk about. Game Brew listeners, if you have a favorite sound effect or if you have played a game where you feel like the sound effects really make a big difference, let us know by sending us an email at thegamebrew@gmail.com or hitting us up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk about a section we call There and Back Again, talking about traversal in games. Stay with us. Okay, hello and welcome back to the second half of the Game Brew podcast. Our segment 2 is called There and Back Again, traversal in games. So we all know that getting around in games sometimes can be the best experience in the game or can be the worst experience in the game. So there are games like Just Cause 2 that has an amazing form of traversal, and there are also games like, I don't know, what's bad? What's a bad form of traversal?
Oh,
What's
so
that
many.
VR game? It was original. It was like blocky first-person shooters. It was the first.
I don't know.
It was one of the ones you couldn't move around. Like the traversal was horrible. You could like shoot shit and look around, but to move, you had to like point, like throw something, and you move there, and then throw something, and then move there, and then throw something, and then
That's still some things in VR.
Anyway,
But
so
I'm thinking
that's shitty traversal in a game. It's atrocious.
So getting around a game is actually really important and can make a game great or make a game terrible. So let's talk about games first that we think have great traversal mechanics and what it adds to the game.
So I really like in The Witcher 3 where yeah, there you go.
We're gonna
go.
bleep it
I
every
really
time
like-
you say The Witcher. We're just gonna.
I really like in that game that I like. So it's one of the only games that I've played where they do some talking sometimes while you're riding Roach, your horse, and it makes it so you just hold down A and you get to pay attention to what they're saying, and you just kind of follow the path that you're on. Or
Didn't Red Dead
there's
Redemption do that first?
yeah, I was going to say there was another game where you kind of like, if you hold down a button, it'll go the same speed as the person you're going with. So that like you can kind of pay more attention to the surroundings or what's being said in the conversation. And I think that like it's not as active like as in Just Cause 3, but you get to it's kind of like a slow loading screen that you still have control in.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because I was playing that game you like the other day, and it reminded me a lot of the open world in Breath of the Wild. But the difference was, you'll notice that in the Breath of the Wild, there is no mini-map. And in The Witcher 3, there is. And what ends up happening to me is, instead of enjoying the surroundings in The Witcher 3, I'm just staring at the mini-map in the corner, making sure I'm pointed directly toward my objective. Whereas
you can turn that off.
I'm sorry, there is a mini-map in the Breath of the Wild.
Is there?
Yeah, are you playing on the pro settings so you don't have the mini-map or any of that kind of stuff?
Hold on. Let me pull it up here.
Okay, while Ian's pulling that up, we didn't talk about the beers that we were drinking.
Oh, shit. We didn't check in on the beers.
No.
That's okay.
It's still the same.
Well, let's
yummy.
throw all of this out. Man, it's like this beer was kind of mediocre, so we completely forgot that we were really even drinking it.
Oh, God, that's good enough. Let's just keep talking. Savage, but let's get...
Maybe, damn, you're right, Dan. There is a mini map in Breath of the Wild, but okay, so I'll retool my statement. What's funny is that I don't pay attention to it because I'm actually looking at the thing that I'm going to in Breath of the Wild, whereas in The Witcher, I'm looking at the mini map. And I think the difference is that the locations in the Breath of the Wild are so much more developed, and like the map is actually so much more a part of the character that it makes you pay attention to the actual screen.
I do find in that game I like to play that I do sometimes stare at the minimap too much. So I can agree with that some.
You're going to need glasses if you keep doing that.
You know, I really love... I wish a game would get it all right, because in GTA, I love the vehicle control. It is so much fun to get in a car and just tear ass around. But when you get out on foot, it's like you got 2 or 6 left feet. Like if Rockstar could partner with Ubisoft and have foot traversal as much fun around that city as it is in Assassin's Creed, but keep the vehicle mechanic. Oh man, I would have so much fun romping around that. But both of those games, it's like, one, it's great in the car, and then Assassin's Creed is so much fun to run around. But if you get tired of that, you got a horse.
Will, have you played Watch Dogs?
I have not, no.
Okay.
Because I heard it was like our beer, mediocre.
But it's kind of what you're asking for.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
kind of what. Yeah, a little bit.
I didn't play it because I got meh reviews.
I'm not a huge fan of the traversal in the Assassin's Creed games.
No, it's so action packed. That's what I love about it.
Okay, Dan, what was the last Assassin's Creed game you played?
Let me finish my statement here first, because
Dan, I'm gonna let you finish, but real quick. No, I'm kidding. I'm just
no, because I played the one in Great Britain. What was that one called? That was called Assassin's Creed
Syndicate.
What?
Syndicate,
yeah. I played that one, and it was pretty good. Like, there was, like, the horse stuff, but the one that I liked the most, and this is actually one of my favorite ones of, like, getting places, too, is Black Flag.
Yes, Black Flag is so much fun.
Yeah, because that one...
Because boats.
Because boats. No, but because it took, like, that really good part of Assassin's Creed 3, which was the one in America. And, people were like, "Oh, we really like the boat sailing part,"
and that's it.
Like, and that's it.
They were like,
took that.
Okay.
But and because, like, not only is it like you're sailing a ship from one place to another, you have a crew, and there are things that are happening around. So, like, boats, like other like ships and stuff can be close to you. There's whales and there's fish that you can see off the side of the boat. Your crew starts singing like shanties and stuff like that.
That's one of the best parts about that game.
I love the shanty, especially whenever I like know the shanty that they're singing.
Oh, this one's my jam.
So what makes fun traversal for you guys? Like, for me, it's action and a lot going on, and that's why I love Assassin's Creed. There's tons going on the screen, or when you're in a car in GTA, there's so much to look at and so much to be engaged in and have to pay attention to be successful.
I think it's more about being it keeps your attention enough that you're not bored while you're traversing, but not so interesting that you don't want to stop doing it. like you're not dreading the next time you have to like. It got to so let's take an example in the Elder Scrolls, like in Oblivion or Skyrim. It can kind of get old just running through the fucking mountains or whatever. Yeah, because you're like, oh, past that tomb, did it. Past that Elven Ruins, did it. Or whatever. And so that's when you start breaking out the fast travel because there's nothing else interesting. Whereas like in GTA or in Black Flag, you're slightly interested because there's like certain little things happening around you. You have some music to play with you. Your jam might come on, your favorite sea chanty. And so like that'll entertain you enough to get to where you're trying to go.
Right.
Can I say something slightly controversial possibly?
Yes, I love controversial.
No.
I really
Absolutely
don't
not.
I really don't like some of the getting from place to place in GTA. Like from in the campaign mode, I really do not like going from. I was so happy.
Los Santos to the desert.
Yeah,
Because it's long, or
yeah, because
Dude,
it
it's
takes
driving there in
forever
real
and it's
LA
boring
traffic.
because you're not trying to murder people whenever you're playing the campaign all the time. It's like you're in GTA 4 whenever they put. Oh, hey, you can get in a cab and fast travel to a place. That was the best thing that's ever happened because I was just like, thank God I don't have to drive from Queens to the Bronx. So in this jalopy without murdering anybody, listening to my phone ring and people and my cousin just going, hey, cousin, want to go bowling? Hey, do you want to go play some darts?
Yeah, what's interesting about the GTA games is that I kind of agree with both Will and Dan in that, like, I think the driving.
It's not allowed. Pick one.
I think the driving.
Pick one.
I think the driving in GTA is really compelling and really well done. But also when they make you drive, especially when they make you drive slowly and carefully in the campaign while they like spew content like a narrative at you, it's really painful. It's super bothersome. It feels like a chore.
Yeah, that's what bugs me is that it is like it's just like driving to go to the store.
Yeah,
where it's like, oh, I gotta drive to go get milk. It's like I wish the milk was just here.
I like milk too.
So there's actually there is a genre of game wherein traversal is the main thing, notably platformers, and we've had some
Or racing games.
or racing games, and we've had some high. I don't want to say high quality. We've had some high profile games based on traversal lately. Super Mario Odyssey comes to mind quite prominently. So what platformers really spoke to you guys about the way that you moved around in those worlds? Because that's super important. I feel like in a platformer, you need to nail the feel of that. Or also in like 2D Metroidvanias, like if you don't nail traversal, that game is painful.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Really?
One of my favorite things, and it could just be this one thing, but you remember when he would like the Kazooie would pop out of the backpack and he would run on his chicken legs. And then I loved doing that when I was a little kid, just running around like as that because he would be so much faster than Banjo, who was kind of like slow and dopey moving. And so it was just like such a contrast that it was really entertaining.
I like when you do the double jump and he goes.
Yeah. Well, and and like all those different movements that you could do, it was really satisfying.
Well, you know, games, if I remember correctly, games used to have, like, Donkey Kong Country, correct me if I'm wrong, had a few different, I don't want to say game modes, but sometimes you were in the cart, sometimes you were on foot. You had some different ways to interact and play with the game, and that kind of sort of ish went by the wayside. Well, not kind of, sort of. It went by the wayside with side scrolling games for a while. But I think a game that's modern that does this really well and keeps the way you traverse through the terrain really interesting is the new Nier Automata. Have you guys played this?
No.
Or looked up reviews for this?
I want to.
Sometimes it's a side scroller. Sometimes it's third person. Sometimes it's top down. I believe it's all these different game modes, and you're constantly getting the camera will swing out or swing back into whatever mode you're supposed to be in. And it's super fun to watch somebody play that game who knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Super Mario Odyssey.
Is that really traversal though?
Well, yeah, because I mean, the way you traverse through a game in third person, totally.
That's perspective.
Well, it's perspective, but it affects how you traverse through the game. I mean, top down is totally a different type of interaction than side scrolling.
It doesn't change the way you move. It just changes the perspective.
No, it absolutely changes the way you move.
I don't know. Like, I feel like I'd have to play Nier to understand.
I'll trust you, I guess, because I haven't played it. So yeah,
it absolutely changes the way you move because you have different mechanics and modes of traversal in different perspectives. You can't traverse in the same way from a side view as you can from behind.
I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Super Mario Odyssey here, where part of, first of all, it is just such a joy to get around as Mario. And this is something that Nintendo has consistently nailed in basically every Mario game ever, is that it just feels good to jump around, jump around.
Jump up and get down.
Yes, he does a lot of that.
Yeah.
But the other thing where they kind of shake that formula up in Odyssey, of course, is that you can take over other things, and everything about how you interact with the world, everything about how you move changes. And that's really cool too. Like being a Goomba, you don't slide on ice when you're a Goomba. So sometimes it's like specific traversal mechanics really matter.
Is that canon? Is that
it is now?
Super Mario canon? All right.
I guess. I didn't make it up.
I guess just making sure. There's, and that's. Is there a platformer you think doesn't do traversal well? Like that's.
I mean, since that's kind of the name of the game for platformers, like there are bad platformers that do traversal poorly. Like, you remember the Ninja Turtles game on original NES? It had the worst jumping ever. Oh my god, Terrible. It was so bad.
A type of traversal that I absolutely loathe, and I'd be curious what you guys cannot stand as well. What do you call those games like Heroes of the Storm and
point and click, like the point and click stuff?
MOBAs? I hate. Why do you have to point and click? Why can you not WASD?
So do you not like Diablo 3?
I like Diablo 3 because it's Diablo 3, but I still hate the point and click. Give me one good reason why in 2018 I can't WASD.
Because you got to use your fingers to do the hotkeys, man.
But
you got to hotkey those hotkeys.
I mean, I think Will's point is interesting. Why couldn't you put the hotkeys on like a 5 or 6 button mouse?
Yeah, I mean, when you play this on
not
console,
everyone has a 5 or 6 button mouse.
No, but I'm saying
on console you don't use the D-pad to get around. I mean, you move around the way you normally move around in the top-down game on a console. Why can you not do that, or at least have the option on PC?
There are games that I really like in spite of the traversal in them. Has anyone played Subnautica at all?
Nope. A little bit.
Or Astroneer?
A little bit.
Couple bit. Okay.
Yep.
So this is actually something that I think craft 'em ups and sort of survival type games could do a lot better, is that traversal in those games is almost always a fucking chore. So, and this is Minecraft, Astroneer, like all these things. You're slow. It takes forever to get around. There's nothing interesting about moving around, and usually
your vehicles are trash.
Usually you're punished if you move too far. So Subnautica is maybe the one where I think they've put some thought into that, because Subnautica is a survival game where you play on a planet that's entirely submerged in water. And so you're swimming around throughout the entirety of it. And the sound, Alex, actually, you should play this game because the sound design in this game is incredible. And it's got VR support, so you probably dig that too. Anyway.
Started typing.
Anyway, and they've got like nodes where you can breathe underwater at like the special kind of coral that shoots out oxygen, and you can like make these little pipes that come down from the ocean top where you can actually breathe. But it's still kind of just a chore to make sure that you don't drown, where it should be an interesting game mechanic. And the same is true for Astroneer, where if you walk too far away from your base and you don't have waypoints down, you suffocate because there's no oxygen. Like, it just doesn't feel fun to get around in those games. And I think,
or your vehicles, like Ian and I played this game once, and we got stuck. Our vehicle stuck down in a hole, and we couldn't get it out. And we basically took a couple hours just trying to get our vehicle out. But I would say that we enjoyed our time doing that because we were laughing like the entire time, like because it was so ridiculous that we like. So it kind of brought something to it too, in a way.
Yeah. I'm torn about the vehicles in that game for exactly what you just said. They're goofy enough that it can be really frustrating, but they're also goofy enough that every once in a while you end up in a hilarious situation.
How do you guys feel about fast travel?
I like it.
That's a good way for games that don't have interesting traversal mechanics to kind of bypass it.
Yeah. I think it can be a little bit too much of an easy pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where
easy pass.
It takes away
Multi-pass?
easy pass, like the highway, where it can
multi-pass.
where it can take away from the continuity of the world. If you think about the difference between Elder Scrolls 3 and Elder Scrolls 4, where basically in Elder Scrolls 4 you had fast travel. And you didn't necessarily have to walk from point A to point B. But in Elder Scrolls 3, I want to say you didn't have fast travel, at least for part of the game.
You did in a way. So in Morrowind, you could go to, there were silt striders.
Oh, that's right.
Which would make it so you could go to, like, they were like buses, basically.
Yeah.
So you would go to like different bus stations that silt strider would go to.
Right.
And they would also have portals like from different mage guilds. They would go over there. So they had it, but it was a little more strict. And I in a way, I kind of like that better.
Yeah.
Because it at least is a little more realistic, I guess.
Well, it forced you to be in the world more. And what I especially loved in Morrowind is that you could craft potions that were like strong jump / float potions and just sort of like fly around the world and float down into stuff.
Yeah, and then like come back down.
Yeah,
slowly
and that was really, it was
actually
actually a really great way to get around. That was kind of like an in-game, it wasn't a hack, but it was something that you could take advantage of.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
You're a hack.
Yeah, and I'll be honest though, since I've gone back to play Morrowind, sometimes there's different mods you can get to make it so once you get to I think it's called Bruma. Once you get to the Fighters Guild there, you can walk in and the mod puts a ring on one of the shelves, and you can put that ring on, and then it teleports you to anywhere basically.
That's cool.
It's just like a thing for me to get around faster, just because I'm so used to Oblivion or Skyrim that not having fast travels like.
Well, right. And if the world was interesting enough that you didn't really need fast travel, then you wouldn't use it. I feel like Breath of the Wild, I hardly ever used fast travel in that game because everything is because everything is so interesting. Like most of that,
I disagree.
Most of that game, I honestly spend like, well, I'll go see what that is over there, like that specific rock thing or those trees. I don't really like point myself at something and fast travel to it usually.
I feel like it depends what you're also doing in the game at the time. Like if you are focusing on just the main mission quests at the time, or if you're working on knocking out some of the mini games or the side missions in a game. The game that comes to mind when I'm thinking of this is Fallout 3. Mm-hmm. That am I wrong in that you could go from like the makeshift towns to makeshift towns? Mm-hmm. That you could fast travel between those.
Pretty sure.
Or you could. Yeah.
Pretty sure fast travel was pretty free in Fallout 3.
Yeah, you could fast travel to any like waypoint that was on your map.
That you had discovered. You couldn't just do it to places though.
But it's like if I'm working on a side mission and I have to get to the complete other end of the map, and I know that there isn't anything that I need in the middle of that map, like fast traveling is going to save me a lot of time.
Right.
To get closer to finishing that objective so I can move on to the next mission.
It's not like you're going to be missing anything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Some stuff you've seen before.
And it's also something that as there is more open world games and as computer processing has improved and there's less and less loading screens for stuff, I feel like exploring the world is it. Part of it is also seeing what the developer can do.
Sure.
To just say, look at me, you don't ever see a loading screen in this. In the first Assassin's Creed, there was no loading screen. You would run between the different locations, right?
Yeah.
And the first Assassin's Creed was ridiculous how much dead space was between, like, running between locations. I remember, like, there was one point in time where I knew I was going to be on that road for like 5 minutes, and so I just took like a rubber band and like stuck my left joystick in the forward position and wrapped it around the underside of the controller. Yeah,
analog
exactly.
auto run.
Just because I knew this, like, there's nothing to do right now. Like, this is a waste of my time.
Cool. All right. Well, that's Traversal in Games. Game Brew listeners, if you have a game that you loved just to move around the world in, let us know by sending us an email at thegamebrew@gmail.com or by hitting us up on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We're going to do a segment that we haven't done before real quick to close out the show. And we're calling this segment Middle Fingers and Thumbs Up. So this is a chance for us to rant about stuff that we're pissed off about or to, talk about things that we're real happy about. So let's go with the middle finger first. Chris, who are you giving a middle finger to this week?
I'm giving a middle finger to Intel.
Boo, Intel.
The company that makes most of the processors that we use. So if you haven't heard, there's been a big leak of it's not really a bug or anything. It's more of just a vulnerability that's been discovered in most processors since 1995, but specifically Intel ones, and it has to do with speculative execution. So basically, the processor is trying to predict the next thing it's going to do, and there's a vulnerability with it. And Intel found it 6 months ago, and it's just leaked out now that it's a thing. So there's been
so let me ask you. So
tons of compromised computers because
so
there hasn't been any issues yet.
So I think,
the problem,
I think it's a thing that's really difficult to exploit.
I think that what Intel would say is that they didn't say anything about it because they didn't want to reveal that there was something there to use as a weakness.
But then they didn't do anything about it for 6 months, really.
Right. Okay.
I mean, we've got the software patch now that they've developed.
Right, but it's still going to be there. It's like
permanent fix.
As long as it is in the hardware, there is still a vulnerability.
Yes, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
So fix it.
So this was the Meltdown and Spectre security flaws.
I like
Meltdown only affected Intel computers. Spectre affected most things that have chips.
What's interesting?
All the things.
What's interesting to me is that they are like, no, it's a really big problem. And then people are like, okay, so what are you going to do about it? You're going to like recall the chips, right? And they're like, well, we can't do that.
Because that's all the chips.
That's
like 90% of
right. But what's funny is that
in the
like
world.
any other company, if they shipped a product, like a physical product, let's say like BMW ships a blinker that fails, BMW is responsible for replacing that blinker. And
that's true.
And that's under law. And Intel's only reason for not recalling them, as far as I've heard, is like, it's just too many of them.
No, I mean, but it literally is.
I know, but like
that is too. But that's more than the Subarus there are.
To me,
out
that's
there.
like too fucking bad. Like, sorry if it bankrupts your company, but you done fucked up. Like, you need to fix this problem.
Yeah, well, I also don't think it was anybody's fault. I mean, this is just one of those things. Like, did we even have the foresight and the understanding back in 1995 until recently to understand even how to exploit this vulnerability?
I don't know. I don't know that much about it.
I'm not a hacker, man. I don't really.
I would
Hacker
argue
man.
probably not.
Probably not. No,
Because
but
it's super complicated if you go and read the
regardless,
what it
though,
is
I
and
mean,
how to
Intel
do
has
that.
not handled it too well. It's making AMD look pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
This
Team Red.
shouldn't affect AMD too much right now.
Theoretically.
In theory, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. And everyone out there, go make sure you do all the BIOS updates and and Windows updates available, and do your due diligence to protect your computers.
Well, that's just good. That's just good computer use, man.
Well, particularly right now.
Yeah.
So I want to give a big thumbs up to
That's a sound a thumbs up makes.
I want to give a big thumbs up to Concerned Ape, who is the developer of Stardew Valley.
Will's favorite game.
Will's favorite
That he's
game.
never played.
Because Stardew Valley pretty soon is going to have multiplayer support. Sometime
Up to 4 people,
up to 4 people in 2018. I think right now it's just local, but that's still awesome.
So does that mean I can like help you with the turnips?
Yeah,
I don't care.
We could do turnips together.
Dude, I'm
doesn't
so
wanna help
excited
us
for
with
this.
the
I
turnips.
think this is going to be the best.
It's gonna be a lot of
thing
fun.
that's happened to Stardew Valley
Dude,
in a long time.
I'm excited to help you with those turnips. I want to
We're
do
going to be
that.
turning over
me them turnips.
turnips. It's going to be great.
Turn
We're
it
gonna
for
turn
what?
up
Turn up for turnips.
Turn up for what?
for like 15 monies, whatever, you know.
I think turnips sell for like 40.
Yeah,
Or 60.
he's done such a good job with that game.
Yeah,
It's amazing that
Yeah,
he did that all
that's-
he's had some help with the multiplayer stuff, but that game was made by him, just by him.
yes.
Yeah.
The music was made by him.
Eric Barone.
The art was done by him.
maybe.
Like very, very impressive.
Pretty cool.
Very.
Pretty cool. All right. Well, I think that is it for us this week. Hey, Game Brew people out there in the multiverse.
Hey.
We are thinking about you, and we hope you are thinking about us. And if you are thinking about us, and if you are liking our podcast, go ahead and leave us a review on iTunes or on Google Play or wherever you get this podcast. It is actually really important to us, and it makes a big difference for us here at Game Brew Studios. We could use your support. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you in episode 23.
Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
If anybody
Everybody.
needs me, I will not be picking turnips.
You're so smart.
10 points for Ravenclaw, Alex.
I'm Hufflepuff.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
10 points for
dude.
Hufflepuff.
Don't just go giving out
Yeah.
houses willy-nilly.
Do we know what our houses are? Are we all good?
I'm a Slytherin, so
I mean, I've
of
done the
course.
thing, and I'm Gryffindor, but
Gryffindor.
I've never done the
Hufflepuff.
thing.
we need.
Oh, Will, you got to do the thing.
you got to find
Ian,
out.
what are you?
I'm
Have you done the
Hufflepuff,
thing?
Clearly.
Yeah. Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff.
What house am I in Harry Potter? The Sorting Hat. I'm doing it. I was born in January 1943.
You were not born in January 1943.
Well, I mean, why do I have to fill this shit out to do
because it's the Sorting Hat. Will. Dan, how do you feel? Do you feel like people discriminate against Slytherin?
I do. I mean, they think that we're all a bunch of evil assholes, which arguably
your track record isn't great.
pretty much all of us are. But I mean,
Gryffindor
like,
would say that.
Okay. All right. So
There was only one bad guy. From
Dan's
Gryffindor.
other personality is a
murder robot.
is a murder robot. So
I don't think I'm the one to ask about moral ambiguity here.
Oh shit, I'm Hufflepuff.
Yeah, what up? Hufflepuff
Yay.
represent.
You guys are a bunch of bitches.
Hufflepuff.
I know, right? They're a bunch of bitches.
Whatever.
Something that we
Everyone
can agree
loves
on.
us.
Yeah, Hufflepuff sucks.